For centuries, humanity kept to itself among the stars. While the blue-skinned Vestari boasted about their floating cities and the six-armed Nolari showed off their faster-than-light drives at every Galactic Council meeting, humans simply nodded, politely, and said very little. "We appreciate the Council's concern," Director Kim would say at the monthly gatherings, his face revealing nothing as alien representatives questioned why humans refused to share their technological advances. Earth is focused on peaceful development at this time. What the other species didn't understand was that humans weren't being stubborn or unfriendly. They were keeping a promise made by their ancestors. In the observation deck of the Earth Embassy, Station Director Kim often stood alone, watching the traffic of alien ships. Today he was joined by his assistant. The Keldari ambassador asked again about access to our Mars facilities, his assistant said, passing him a data tablet. "This is the third time this month." Kim sighed. The usual response: "We welcome scientific exchange, but our facilities contain heritage sites protected under Earth historical preservation laws." This wasn't exactly a lie. What the Keldari and others didn't know was that beneath the Olympus Mons research station lay something far more important than the public laboratories above. Something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Across human space, from the water farms of Europa to the mining colonies in the Kuiper Belt, similar secrets lay hidden. Ancient technology, buried and protected by generations of humans who understood what would happen if these relics awakened too soon. On a routine inspection of the lunar base, Commander Park walked through the restricted lower levels, her security, clearance granting access to chambers that officially didn't exist. The walls here were not the modern polymer composites, used throughout the rest of the base, but something far older. "Status report," she said to the technician following her. "All systems dormant, Commander. Power consumption remains at minimal levels, just enough to maintain the containment fields. No signs of activation." Park nodded, placing her palm against the cold metal wall. Few people knew what lay behind these walls. Technology from an age when humans had reached far beyond their current capabilities, before something had forced them to retreat and rebuild. "My grandmother used to tell me stories," Park said quietly, "about how our ancestors touched the edge of the galaxy before they fell. How they built wonders that we can barely understand even now." The technician looked uncomfortable. "The preservation. Protocol is clear, Commander. We watch, we wait, we keep the old things sleeping. In the Galactic Council archives, the oldest records of human activity only went back a few hundred years. Their sudden appearance in the galactic community had been noted as unremarkable, a developing species from a small blue planet, just beginning to stretch beyond their solar system. This was exactly how Earth's government wanted it to appear. At the highest levels of Earth Command, only 12 people knew the full truth. They gathered rarely in a chamber deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by walls of ancient technology that hummed with dormant power. "The Keldari are becoming more insistent," Admiral Ryu reported to the gathering. "Their exploration vessels have been probing the edges of our territory, particularly near the Arcturus outpost." "That's dangerously close to Site 7, General Cho replied, her face grim in the blue light of the holographic display. Director Kim nodded. "I've deflected their requests as best I can, but they're growing suspicious. They don't understand why a developing species would be so protective of seemingly ordinary research facilities." The oldest person in the room, Dr. Jin, had been keeper of the archives for over 40 years. His voice was soft, but carried weight when he spoke. "For 15 generations we have kept the protocol. We've rebuilt our civilization from ruins while keeping the old technology dormant. The time isn't right yet." Around the table, heads nodded in agreement. The ancients had left clear instructions before their civilization fell. Protect what remains, rebuild slowly, and above all, keep the Guardians sleeping until the threat returns. On colony worlds throughout human space, children were taught simplified versions of this history, how humanity had once reached the stars before, how something had forced them to start again, and how important it was to build carefully this time. Most believed these were just stories to encourage patience and careful development, but in hidden bunkers on every human world, the truth lay sleeping. Machines of incredible power, defensive systems beyond current understanding, and artificial intelligences that had once commanded fleets that touched distant galaxies, all waiting for a signal, for the moment they would be needed again. For now, humanity would continue its quiet path, building colonies that appeared modest to alien eyes, developing technology that seemed unremarkable, and keeping their greatest achievements, both past and present, hidden from view. The preservation. Protocol would be maintained, no matter how curious other species became. Humanity would stay quiet, at least until the day came when silence was no longer an option. The message arrived in the middle of Earth's night cycle. Emergency alerts blared through the command center as Admiral Ryu rushed from his quarters, still, pulling on his uniform jacket. "Report," he demanded, entering the control room where officers stared at the main screen in shock. "Sir, New Damascus colony is under attack," said the communications officer, her voice shaking. "The Keldari Empire has launched a full invasion. No warning, no demands." On the screen, surveillance feeds showed massive Keldari warships hovering over the human settlement. Their distinctive purple-hulled vessels, shaped like arrowheads, fired relentlessly at the colony's minimal defenses. "This makes no sense," Director Kim said, arriving moments later. "The Keldari have always been aggressive, but they've respected council boundaries. Why attack us now?" The answer came from intelligence reports flooding in. The Keldari Emperor had publicly declared humans to be an inconsequential species occupying valuable cosmic real estate. Their rapid expansion needed resources, and human colonies were seen as easy targets. "They think we're weak," Admiral Ryu said quietly. "They think we're just beginning our journey to the stars." On New Damascus, the reality was grim. The colony had been established as a cultural outpost, home to thousands of historians, artists, and civilians. Its defenses were minimal, just enough to handle pirate raids or natural disasters. Commander Tay of the Keldari forces moved through the main settlement, watching with satisfaction as his troops rounded up colonists and systematically destroyed buildings. "These structures hold no strategic value," his lieutenant reported. "They appear to be simple archives and museums." Tay laughed. "Destroy them anyway. Their cultural heritage means nothing to the Empire. Make an example of this colony." What the Keldari commander didn't know, couldn't know, was that beneath the largest museum lay something far more important than artwork and historical records. As his troops set explosives around the building's foundation, they inadvertently positioned them near the concealed entrance to an underground facility that hadn't been accessed in centuries. The explosion was far larger than expected. The ground shook violently, and a strange blue light erupted from the crater where the museum had stood. "What was that?" Tay demanded, shielding his eyes from the unexpected blast. Before his officer could respond, all Keldari systems began malfunctioning. Communications cut out, weapons powered down. For a brief moment, a signal, not transmitted through any known channel, pulsed outward from New Damascus, reaching across human space faster than any conventional transmission. Back on Earth, the signal triggered immediate responses. In the deepest command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, systems that had been dormant for millennia suddenly activated. Lights that had never been lit in living memory began to glow along ancient walls. Engineer Lee had been running routine maintenance checks when the facility came alive around him. He stumbled backward, dropping his tools as panels opened in the floor and ceiling, revealing machinery unlike anything in modern human engineering. "This isn't possible," he whispered, watching as holographic displays ignited, showing star maps and defense grids that covered not just Earth's solar system, but dozens of others. His communicator buzzed urgently. "Lee, what's happening down there?" It was Director Kim's voice, tight with tension. "Sir, everything's activating. The ancient systems, they're waking up, all of them." Across human space, similar reports flooded in. On Mars, tourists watched in astonishment as the ground beneath Olympus Mons shifted, revealing massive hangar doors where nothing had been visible before. On Europa, researchers were evacuated as the ice sheets began to reconfigure, exposing structures that had been hidden beneath the frozen surface. In orbit around Saturn, a maintenance crew working on a routine satellite repair witnessed something impossible. What had appeared to be small, rocky moons began to move, shedding their outer layers to reveal metallic structures beneath. Back on New Damascus, Commander Tay ordered his troops to retreat to their ships as the strange energy continued to spread across the colony. "Something's wrong," he reported to his superiors. "The humans have some kind of defense system we didn't detect." But it was already too late. As the Keldari ships attempted to leave orbit, a beam of concentrated energy, fired from what had appeared to be a simple communications array, sliced through the lead vessel's engines. On the colony surface, survivors watched in amazement as dormant defense turrets emerged from hidden bunkers, targeting the invaders with precision that no modern system could match. In the crater where the museum had stood, something else was happening. From the rubble, a sphere of blue light formed, condensing until it took a humanoid shape. The Guardian AI, a sentinel left by humanity's ancestors, had awakened. On Earth, Director Kim and the Emergency Council gathered around the newly activated command center, where Engineer Lee worked frantically to understand the ancient interfaces. "Coming to life. The preservation protocol has been breached," Lee reported, translating the symbols flashing across the screens. The Guardian on New Damascus was destroyed, but before it died, it woke the others. Admiral Ryu's face was grave. "Then it's begun. After all these centuries of silence." Director Kim nodded slowly, watching as more and more systems came online around them. The machinery hummed with power that had been sleeping for thousands of years, waiting for exactly this moment. "Alert all colonies," he ordered. "Enact emergency. Directive ancestral shield. And may the stars help the Keldari when our ancestors fully awaken." Commander Han was finishing her morning inspection when the message flashed across her personal tablet. The device vibrated differently than normal alerts, a pattern she'd never felt before. The screen displayed words that made her blood run cold. "Ancestors awakened. Protocol Sunrise active." She froze in the middle of Lunar Base's main corridor as other officers' devices activated simultaneously. The same message appeared on every screen throughout the base. "Commander." Her lieutenant looked confused. "What does this mean?" Han had no answer. In 15 years of service, she'd never heard of Protocol Sunrise, yet something deep inside her recognized the words, as though she'd always known them but never remembered until now. Before she could respond, the base's lighting shifted to a deep blue hue. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing equipment no one had installed, or at least no one in living memory. "Get me Earth Command now," Han ordered, but communications were already changing. New channels appeared on their systems, frequencies that hadn't existed moments before. Above Earth, satellites that had been disguised as defunct space junk suddenly changed position. Solar panels unfolded from what had appeared to be broken equipment. Weapon systems emerged from debris clusters that had orbited Earth for centuries, their true nature hidden in plain sight. On Mars, Teacher Choi was leading her students through the Olympus City Monument, a massive stone structure that had become the colony's most recognizable landmark. The children were drawing the monument for their art class when the ground began to vibrate. "Everyone stay calm," Choi said, gathering the children close as the vibrations intensified. The monument, which had stood unchanged since the first Mars colony was established, began to transform. Sections of stone slid apart, revealing metallic surfaces beneath. The entire central column descended into the ground, creating a spiral staircase where solid rock had been moments before. "Teacher Choi," one of the children tugged at her sleeve. "Why is your eyes glowing?" Choi didn't understand the question until she caught her reflection in a nearby window. Her eyes were indeed glowing with a faint blue light. More disturbing was the sudden flood of information filling her mind. Knowledge she couldn't possibly possess about defense systems, ancient wars, and technologies long forgotten. Similar scenes played out across human settlements. On the agricultural colony of New Eden, Farmer Kang dropped his tools in the middle of the field as information poured into his consciousness. Maintenance workers on space stations found themselves suddenly understanding how to operate machinery they'd never seen before. Medical doctors discovered they knew surgical techniques that hadn't been taught in any university. "What's happening to us?" Kang whispered to no one, as he suddenly knew how to transform his simple farm equipment into defensive weapons. In his mind appeared schematics for converting the colony's irrigation systems into a shield generator that could protect the entire settlement. Back on Earth, Director Kim and Admiral Ryu rushed through the now transformed command center beneath the Pacific. Engineer Lee guided them, somehow navigating the complex with perfect confidence despite the completely altered layout. "How do you know where you're going?" Ryu demanded. Lee touched his temple. "I just know. We all do now, don't we?" The knowledge was always there, buried in our DNA, waiting to be activated. They entered what had become the central chamber, a vast room with a holographic display of the entire galaxy. Points of light indicated human colonies, and red markers showed the position of Keldari forces. "The ancestral defense network is at 60% activation," Lee reported, reading information from displays that hadn't existed hours before. The Guardian AI from New Damascus uploaded its memory core before destruction. It triggered the awakening. Director Kim studied the display. "And these?" he asked, pointing to massive structures now appearing near Jupiter. "The fleet," Lee whispered, "the actual warships of our ancestors." In the orbit of Jupiter, Captain Yoon and the crew of the patrol ship Horizon witnessed the impossible. The gas giant's atmosphere churned unnaturally, massive whirlpools forming in the colorful clouds. From these disturbances emerged structures, larger than any human vessel ever built, warships that had hidden within Jupiter's protective storms for thousands of years. "Are you seeing this?" Yoon's voice cracked as she transmitted to Earth Command. "There are ships coming out of Jupiter. Massive ships." The vessels were sleek despite their size, with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As they emerged fully from Jupiter's clouds, they began to power up, lights appearing along their lengths as ancient engines awakened. On the horizon, the navigation officer suddenly stood from his station, eyes glowing that same strange blue. "I need to go to the lead vessel," he said with complete certainty. "I'm its captain." "What are you talking about?" Yoon started, but stopped when she saw the same blue glow beginning in the eyes of half her crew. The officer smiled. "I didn't know until now, none of us did. We're the descendants of the original crews, genetically coded to take command when the ships awakened. Our ancestors planned for this moment for thousands of years." Across human space, ordinary people discovered they were far from ordinary. The quiet, careful facade humanity had maintained for generations was falling away, revealing what lay beneath. A civilization that had once reached technological heights, still unmatched in the galaxy, now reawakening from its long slumber. Her quarters on Lunar Base, Commander Han studied her reflection, watching the blue glow in her eyes pulse with new knowledge filling her mind. She now understood what Protocol Sunrise truly meant. It wasn't just the awakening of dormant technology, it was the awakening of humanity's true potential, hidden for millennia until needed. "We stayed quiet for so long," she whispered to herself, "but now it's time to remember who we really are." Admiral Song stood on the command deck of the Remembrance, a vessel that until yesterday had been hidden within Jupiter's stormy atmosphere. The bridge hummed with energy, as systems that had slept for millennia now operated at full capacity. Through the view screen, she watched the approaching Keldari fleet, nearly 100 warships advancing toward Earth, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. Just 3 days ago, Song had been a simple logistics officer on Europa Station. Now ancient memories flowed through her mind, combat strategies, weapons capabilities, and the faces of a crew she'd commanded in another lifetime. "They're maintaining attack formation," reported her tactical officer. "Weapons charged and shields at maximum." Song nodded. The Keldari, emboldened by their easy victory at New Damascus, expected a similar outcome here. They had no idea what awaited them. "All ships maintain position," she ordered through the fleet communication channel. Around the Remembrance, 30 ancient vessels held their defensive line, a pitifully small number compared to the Keldari armada, but Song felt no concern. The Keldari commander's voice boomed through the open channel. "Human forces, you are outmatched and outgunned. Surrender your homeworld and colonies, and we may allow your species to survive as subjects of the Empire." Song allowed herself a small smile. "This is Admiral Song of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have committed acts of war against humanity. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Laughter echoed over the channel. "Your bravado is amusing, Admiral. Your people are known throughout the galaxy as newcomers to space travel. What consequence could you possibly deliver?" Song closed the channel and turned to her crew. "Activate the light bridge drives." Throughout the human fleet, ancient engines pulsed with blue energy. The ships seemed to flicker, their outlines becoming momentarily transparent before solidifying. Again, to the astonished Keldari observers, the human vessels simply vanished. "Where did they go?" demanded the Keldari commander, as his sensor operators frantically searched for the disappeared fleet. His answer came seconds later, as the human ships reappeared, not in their defensive line, but scattered throughout the Keldari formation, inside their defensive perimeter. From the bridge of the Remembrance, now positioned directly behind the Keldari command ship, Song gave her order. "All vessels commence precision strikes." What followed wasn't the chaotic exchange of heavy firepower typical of space battles. Instead, human weapons fired with surgical accuracy, targeting specific systems on each Keldari vessel. Engines failed, weapons went offline, communication arrays melted away. The ancient human weapons bypassed shields entirely, as if they didn't exist. How is this possible? The Keldari commander watched helplessly as his fleet was systematically disabled without a single ship being destroyed. Their technology, it violates all known physics. On the Remembrance, Song's tactical officer provided continuous updates. 90% of enemy vessels have been neutralized. Minimal casualties on their side as ordered, Admiral. Song nodded with satisfaction. This isn't about destruction, it's about showing them who we truly are. But the Keldari commander wasn't ready to accept defeat. Gathering his remaining functional ships, he ordered a desperate maneuver. "All vessels, push through to Earth. Target their population centers. If we're going to fall, we'll make them suffer first." The remnants of the Keldari fleet broke away, accelerating toward Earth at maximum speed. Song watched calmly, making no move to pursue them. "Admiral?" her first officer questioned. "They're heading for Earth." "I'm aware," Song replied. "Let them." As the Keldari ships approached Earth's orbit, ready to rain destruction upon the blue planet, something unexpected happened. The space around Earth seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "What trickery is this?" The Keldari commander leaned forward in his chair as his sensors went haywire. Around Earth, what had appeared to be empty space revealed itself. A defensive shell of interconnected platforms decloaked, forming a complete sphere around the planet. These platforms had been there for thousands of years, hidden by technology far beyond anything the Keldari had encountered. "Sir, we're being targeted by thousands of weapon systems," reported a panicked Keldari officer. From the orbital platforms, beams of concentrated energy lanced out, not destroying the Keldari ships, but enveloping them in containment fields that stopped them in place. Like insects caught in amber, the warships hung motionless in space, unable to advance or retreat. On Earth's surface, hidden installations revealed themselves. In deserts, forests, and beneath the oceans, ancient defense systems activated. To the amazement of Earth's citizens, massive structures rose from hiding places that had concealed them for generations. General Ju, who had received the same genetic memory activation as Admiral Song, now commanded the Earth defense grid from what had been a simple weather monitoring station in Antarctica just days before. The station had transformed into a command center, linked to the orbital platforms. "We have them contained," Ju reported to Song. "The Keldari fleet is immobilized. With Earth secure, Admiral Song dispatched the human fleet to surround the frozen Keldari ships. Using the light bridge drives, the ancient vessels appeared around Saturn, forming a perfect containment circle. "Release them from the stasis fields," Song ordered. "Let's see what they decide to do now." As the energy fields dissipated, the Keldari ships found themselves surrounded by the human fleet with no chance of escape. Their weapons and engines, precisely disabled by the initial attack, remained offline. The Keldari commander's voice, now stripped of its earlier arrogance, came through the communication channel. How is this possible? Your people are supposed to be primitives, barely capable of interstellar travel. Admiral Song's reply was calm, but carried the weight of thousands of years. We chose to appear that way. We chose silence and patience while we rebuilt. But you mistook our restraint for weakness, and in doing so you awakened what should have remained sleeping. Through the view screen, she studied the crippled Keldari fleet, now completely at humanity's mercy. The question now, Commander, is, what happens next? Will your empire accept that they have gravely underestimated us, or will more of your ships need to learn this lesson? The Keldari commander's silence was answer enough. Humanity's counterattack had been swift, precise, and overwhelming, revealing a species far different from what the galaxy had been led to believe. General Ju's voice came through Song's private channel. The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency session. They want explanations. Song nodded. It's time for the truth to be known. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 200 species filled the tiered seating, their conversations creating a storm of whispers that echoed through the massive hall. At the center of attention stood the human delegation, led by Ambassador Bay, a figure who had always been quietly polite in previous sessions, but now stood with unmistakable authority. Opposite them, the Keldari representatives looked diminished. Their normally elaborate uniforms had been replaced with simpler garments, and their high commander kept his eyes downcast, the shame of their fleet's utter defeat still fresh. "This emergency session will come to order," announced the council speaker, a tall, willowy being from the Valen Collective. "We are gathered to address the conflict between the Keldari Empire and Earth, and the unexpected developments that have followed." Ambassador Bay stepped forward. In previous council meetings, he had always chosen a position near the back, speaking only when addressed directly. Today he stood at the central podium, his eyes carrying the same faint blue glow that now marked all humans. "Esteemed representatives," Bay began, his voice stronger than any had heard before. "For centuries, humanity has participated in galactic affairs with restraint and humility. Today I stand before you to explain why." He raised his hand, and a holographic display activated above the chamber floor. Unlike the standard council projections, this technology created images of startling clarity and depth. What you're witnessing is powered by systems that predate this council by several thousand years, Bay explained as the representatives murmured in surprise. "Systems created by human hands when our civilization first reached the stars. The hologram showed Earth as it once was, surrounded by a vast network of orbital stations far more advanced than anything currently in existence. The image zoomed out to reveal hundreds of star systems connected by transportation networks that seemed to bend space itself. 15,000 years ago, humanity didn't just reach the stars. We embraced them. Our civilization spanned nearly half the galaxy. We weren't conquerors, we were explorers and builders. We formed alliances with dozens of emerging species, many whose descendants sit among you today." The Valen speaker's inner membranes flickered with shock. "Impossible. There are no records of such a human empire, because we erased them," came a new voice. All eyes turned to Dr. Min, who had entered the chamber unannounced. He walked with purpose, his elderly frame somehow carrying both wisdom and newly awakened power. "I am the vessel for what we call the ancestral consciousness," Dr. Min explained as he joined Ambassador Bay. "The combined wisdom of our ancestors, preserved through genetic memory and awakened only in our greatest need." The holograms shifted to show a dark region at the galaxy's edge, a void where stars seemed to disappear. At the height of our expansion, we encountered something beyond comprehension. A cosmic entity that consumed entire star systems, growing stronger with each civilization it absorbed. We called it the Devourer. The chamber fell silent as the hologram displayed massive ships fighting against what appeared to be living darkness. Even the oldest council members leaned forward, witnessing history none had known existed. For a century we fought alone, standing as the shield between this threat and the younger species of the galaxy. We lost world after world, pushed back, despite our advanced technology. Ambassador Bay continued the narrative. Our ancestors made the hardest choice imaginable. To defeat the Devourer required a weapon so powerful, it would also devastate our own civilization. They chose to sacrifice everything they had built to save species that would never know what happened. The hologram showed a massive device, activating, near the galactic rim, creating a blinding flash that pushed back the darkness, but also engulfed thousands of human worlds in its energy wave. The weapon worked. The Devourer was contained beyond a quantum barrier at the galaxy's edge, but the cost was beyond measure. Our technology, our knowledge, our history, all reduced to ruins. The survivors on Earth and a handful of colonies were thrown back to primitive conditions. Dr. Min's voice grew stronger, but our ancestors left us a gift and a duty. They encoded their knowledge in our very DNA, designed to reawaken if two conditions were met. If humanity rebuilt enough of its civilization to handle the knowledge, or if a threat emerged that required our ancient strength. A Nolari representative rose from his seat. Why maintain this deception? Why hide your true nature from the galactic community? Because the barrier is weakening, Dr. Min answered simply. The Devourer stirs in its prison. Our ancestors knew it would eventually find a way to return, and they wanted humanity to rebuild quietly, without drawing attention to ourselves or our knowledge of what waits beyond the rim. Ambassador Bay gestured to the Keldari delegation. The attack on New Damascus damaged one of the Guardian facilities monitoring the barrier. In destroying what they thought was a simple cultural archive, they awakened our defensive systems, and with them, the truth of who we are. The chamber erupted in voices as representatives demanded explanations, proof, or simply expressed disbelief. The speaker called for order several times before the noise subsided. When silence finally returned, a small, rarely heard voice spoke from the upper tiers. The representative of the Jexari, one of the galaxy's oldest known species, stood. They speak the truth, the ancient being said, its translucent skin reflecting the hologram's light. There are stories in our oldest archives, tales we dismissed as myths, of a race of guardians who fought the darkness and then vanished from memory. We owe them our existence. Ambassador Bay nodded respectfully to the Jexari before addressing the entire council. Humanity doesn't seek dominion or revenge. We kept our silence for millennia, not out of weakness or fear, but from wisdom and duty. Now that we have reawakened, we offer the same protection to the galaxy that our ancestors once provided. He turned to face the Keldari delegation directly. Even to those who attacked us, the coming threat makes our recent conflict seem insignificant in comparison. The Keldari High Commander finally raised his eyes. What happens now? Dr. Min smiled gently. Now, we prepare. The ancestral knowledge flowing through our people includes technology that can strengthen the barrier, but we'll need help. The Devourer took everything from us once. This time, we stand united with the galaxy, or we all fall together. As the session concluded, representatives crowded around the human delegation, their earlier fear replaced by urgent questions and offers of alliance. Species that had viewed humans as newcomers now looked to them for guidance. Walking back to their chambers, Ambassador Bay and Dr. Min paused before a viewport showing the stars. Do you think they understand what's coming? Bay asked quietly. Dr. Min shook his head. Not yet. But they will. Our ancestors kept faith with a galaxy that never knew their sacrifice. Now it's our turn to stand watch. Behind them, the council erupted into action, preparations beginning for a threat most had never imagined. Humanity's long silence had ended. Not with conquest, but with a warning and an outstretched hand. The Guardians had awakened once more.